Hi everyone. My name's Lucy, I'm 67 years old, and what I'm about to tell you still makes my hands tremble every time I think about it. It all began on a bright spring morning, my 67th birthday. I had no idea that my own son, my only child, would betray me that day. And that his whisper would unleash a revenge so calculated, so poetic, it would remind him exactly who raised him and who built everything he tried to take. So, grab a cup of tea, because this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about a mother who refused to be fooled. It was a Saturday morning, and I was setting out the flowers I'd bought myself the day before. My son, Daniel, had called me earlier in the week and said, "Mom, we're taking you out for lunch, just family. You deserve it." His tone was warm, affectionate even. But something in his voice felt forced. You know, when you've raised someone from diapers, you can sense when they're lying. That's what I felt. But I brushed it off. It was my birthday. After all, Daniel had always been ambitious, too ambitious. Ever since my husband, Mark, passed away 10 years ago, Daniel had been circling around my business like a hawk. Mark and I built a small construction company from the ground up. Started with one truck and a single contract, and by the time Mark died, it had turned into a regional powerhouse, LVEM Builders. After Mark passed, I ran it myself. Against every expectation. Against every man who thought a widow couldn't handle it. I made it grow even more. And Daniel? He started working there at 25. He was smart, sure. But also impatient. He didn't want to learn, he wanted to own, and I wasn't ready to hand over the company yet. Not to someone who still thought shortcuts were better than sweat. At noon, Daniel picked me up in his new black SUV, a car he bought with the company credit card. His wife, Amber, was with him. A picture-perfect smile on her face. And honestly, that woman's smile could melt ice, if it weren't for the cold behind her eyes. "Happy birthday, Mom," she said, handing me a bouquet that smelled faintly of guilt. I thanked her and got in. They drove me to a fancy lakeside restaurant, one of those places with white tablecloths and waiters who whisper. The place was beautiful. I almost forgot the unease in my stomach. At the table, everything seemed normal. Daniel poured wine, Amber laughed at my old stories. Then Daniel said something that made my heart twist. "Mom, you've worked so hard your whole life. Don't you think it's time to enjoy it now? Maybe relax, travel. Let someone else handle the company?" I smiled politely. "I'm enjoying it, Daniel. Running the company is my joy. It's my legacy, your father's and mine." Amber placed her hand gently over his. "Of course, Lucy. We're just saying. You deserve a break. Maybe a permanent one." That permanent one felt like a dagger coated in honey. The waiter brought out dessert, my favorite, chocolate mousse with raspberry drizzle. Daniel stood and raised his glass. "To Mom. The strongest woman I know." I smiled. Everyone clapped softly. Then he leaned over to hug me. And that's when it happened. While his arms wrapped around my shoulders, his lips moved near Amber's ear, and I heard it, clear as daylight. "While I distract her, get the folder from her bag." My blood froze. That bag, my purse, had the company's ownership papers. I'd brought them because earlier that week, Daniel said he wanted to show me a new office lease. But suddenly, I knew. This wasn't about celebrating my birthday, this was a setup. I pulled back slowly and smiled. My heart pounded, but my face was calm. Amber had already reached toward my purse, pretending to pick up a napkin she'd dropped, but my bag was gone. Because what Daniel didn't know was that I'd switched the real documents days ago, the ones in that bag. Fake copies with a surprise written all over them. You see, this wasn't the first time Daniel tried to outsmart me. A few months earlier, I found out he'd been trying to transfer company funds to a separate account under his name. He used Amber's maiden name on the paperwork. Clever, but not clever enough. My accountant caught it, and we quietly reversed it before confronting him. When I asked Daniel about it, he laughed nervously. "Just a misunderstanding, Mom. You know how paperwork is. Oh, I knew all right. That day, I realized something painful. My own son saw me as an obstacle. So I decided to prepare for the day he'd make his move. That's when I created 2 sets of company papers. One fake, with language that looked legitimate but gave me full legal control no matter what he did. Point 1 real, locked safely in a bank deposit box. I also transferred half the assets into a charitable trust under my name. If anything happened to me, or if someone tried to take over, everything would go straight to the charity. I was readied. I built this company from dirt. No one, not even my own blood, was going to steal it from me. After lunch, Daniel insisted on dropping me home. He looked so proud of himself, so confident. Amber sat in the passenger seat, gripping her purse tightly. When we pulled into my driveway, Daniel said, "Well, swing by tomorrow, Mom. Maybe talk about the next steps for the company." I smiled. "Of course, sweetheart. Tomorrow it is." That night, I sat alone in my study and opened my safe. The real papers were right where I left them, untouched. But my curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to see what they'd do with the fake ones. So I waited. The next morning, I went to the office early. I parked down the street and watched from my car. At exactly 8:15, Daniel's SUV pulled up. He and Amber walked in, smiling, confident, holding a folder. 5 minutes later, they entered the boardroom with my senior manager, David. I couldn't hear them, but I saw the body language, Daniel standing tall, Amber nodding, David looking confused. Then, my phone buzzed. It was David. "Lucy, are you stepping down? Daniel's saying you signed everything over yesterday." I almost laughed. "Oh, did he now?" I replied. "Keep him there, David. I'm on my way." When I entered the boardroom, Daniel's expression dropped like a stone. Amber froze mid-sentence. And David, bless him, gave me a small nod of relief. "Mom. I thought you were at home," Daniel stammered. I walked to the head of the table, slowly, like I owned the room. "Because I did." "Daniel," I said softly, "I heard you were making some changes without telling me." He swallowed hard. "Mom, we were just reviewing documents?" I interrupted, smiling sweetly. "The ones from my bag yesterday?" Amber looked down. Daniel's face turned pale. I opened the folder on the table, the fake one they had proudly presented, and right there, in big bold letters on the back page, were the words I'd handwritten weeks ago. "Nice try, Daniel. You forgot who built this company," Amber gasped. Daniel's eyes widened. "What is this?" "Oh, just a reminder," I said, my voice calm but cold. "A reminder that I may be old, but I'm not naive. That company exists because I worked 18-hour days when you were still in diapers. I negotiated every deal, built every wall, poured every foundation. You may carry my blood, Daniel, but you don't carry my integrity." Daniel's jaw clenched. "You can't do this, Mom. You can't treat me like a child forever." I smiled sadly. "You stopped being my child when you tried to steal from me." He slammed his fist on the table. "This isn't over." "Oh, it is," I said, sliding a second envelope toward him. "These are your termination papers. Effective immediately." Amber shot up. "You can't fire your own son." I looked her dead in the eye. "I just did." Security escorted them both out, quietly, professionally. Daniel shouted over his shoulder, "You'll regret this," but I didn't, not one bit. Weeks passed. I didn't hear from Daniel. Not a text. Not a call. It hurt, I won't lie. Every night, I stared at the family photo on my fireplace and wondered where I went wrong. But then, one day, I received a call. It was from Daniel's lawyer. "Mrs. Lawson, Daniel wishes to contest the ownership documents." I laughed. "He's welcome to try. But before he does, tell him to read the last clause of those fake papers." The lawyer paused. "Clause 17. I grinned. That clause stated that any attempt to transfer control using those documents would automatically trigger a legal investigation for fraud. Daniel had filed those fake papers at the county registrar's office 2 days after my birthday, which meant, had legally accused himself of fraud. The investigation moved fast. Daniel tried to claim it was a misunderstanding. Amber pleaded ignorance, but there was one problem: the restaurant had security cameras. And on that video, clear as day, you could hear Daniel whisper, "While I distract her, get the folder from her bag." When the investigator played that clip in front of me, I didn't smile. I didn't gloat, I just closed my eyes. That was the sound of my motherhood breaking. Daniel lost his job, his professional license, and eventually, his marriage. Amber left him within a month. He moved out of state, and me? I kept running the company, with David as my right-hand man. It took me a long time to forgive myself for raising a son who saw me as a target, but one evening, as I walked through the office after hours, I stopped at the company logo on the wall. LVEM Builders, established 1987. I touched the engraved letters. Mark and I built this together. Every brick. Every nail. And no whisper could ever take that away. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Mom, I'm sorry, you were right. I forgot who built it, Daniel." I cried for a long time that night. Because even though revenge felt satisfying, a mother's heart never stops loving. You might think the story ends there, with me triumphant, Daniel disgraced, but no, true revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about teaching them a lesson they'll never forget, and I did just that. Months later, I set up a training program under LVEM Builders, teaching young entrepreneurs about ethics in business. Guess who applied anonymously one day? Daniel. I didn't reject him. I didn't scold him. I just sent a reply that said, "Welcome to the program. Remember the foundation you stand on." He attended every class quietly, humbly. And when it was over, he came to me, tears in his eyes. "Mom," he whispered, "thank you for giving me another chance." I smiled, placing my hand on his shoulder. "Don't thank me. Thank the woman you tried to outsmart, because she taught you everything you needed to survive." And that's how, at 67 years old, I reminded my son, and myself, that the strength of a mother is the foundation of every empire. So, when I heard him whisper, "While I distract her," he forgot one tiny thing: I'm the woman who built it all. And I'll never let anyone tear it down. Moral of the story: never mistake kindness for weakness, because when a mother builds something with love, no betrayal, not even from her own blood, can break what she built with her own hands and heart.